We'd like to call the meeting to order for November the 9th, 2011. This is a regular council meeting. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Calling the roll, Ms. Conwell.
Here.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Rogers.
Here.
Ms. Simon.
Here.
Mr. Greenspan.
Here.
Miller. Mr. Brady. Mr. Germana.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Schron.
Here.
Ms. Conley.
Here.
There is a quorum.
All right, please rise for a pledge of allegiance. For a moment of silence, I'd like to reflect on Veterans Day, which is Friday, and we recall all of the veterans from Cuyahoga County who have served in the armed forces. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Do we have someone signed in for public comment? I think there was a gentleman here that signed in from the earlier event. And was
Yes, Madam Chair, we have two persons who have signed in to speak. The first speaker is Paul Kuntz.
Mr. Kunz, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. Paul Kuntz from Mobile Meals Incorporated out of Akron, Ohio. We have been a options funder for the past several years. I just wanted to reiterate a point of home delivered meals for seniors and at-risk youth. Although options funding doesn't cover youth, youth living with grandparents is a growing concern throughout the community. In the spirit of cooperation and regionalism, us down in Summit County, we're very envious of Cuyahoga County for having a human services levy. That's something we do not have, as well as an arts and culture funding levy. So I just wanted to take a few moments to let you know we've been in Cuyahoga County for for about the past 2.5 years. Over half of our 3,000 meals are delivered up in Cuyahoga and Lorain counties. It is one of the last checks and balances in terms of basic needs that our drivers check on the elderly, making sure that they're doing okay, they're taking their meds and the like. So I just wanted to say thanks, and we hope for your continued support.
Thank you.
Any questions?
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
And the next person?
Will Friedman.
Good evening,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Freeman.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. I'm here because you're taking up your first Port Board nomination this evening, and I thought it'd be appropriate for me to just give you a very, very quick overview of the role of the Port Authority and the role of the Port Board and what we do as you take that up. The Port Authority was created in 1968. We're an agency that operates and is funded independent from other government units. Today, the formal role for the city and the county is to appoint our board members, as you'll take up tonight. As CEO and president, I run the day-to-day operations of the Port Authority, and the board provides oversight. As you may know, we recently approved a new strategic plan for the Port Authority in September, as a matter of fact. And the key elements of that plan are to continue maritime shipping, try to grow our maritime shipping as much as possible, continue to finance a wide range of construction projects in our region for governments, for companies, and for not-for-profits. And we intend to take on a new initiative to solve for some very important infrastructure challenges on the Cuyahoga River. This new mission and our vision is all about jobs and job creation, and we already support close to 18,000 jobs in our region and about $1 billion in payroll, and we're going to try as hard as we can to make those numbers go up. So as you take up the confirmation for Mr. Ronayne tonight, I just wanted to come in here. I've met some of you, and I'm eager to continue to work closely with you, and I'm available to you at any time. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
No, Madam Chair, no one else has signed in.
All right, we'd like to consider the approval of the minutes of October the 25th, 2011 for a regular meeting. Is there a motion to adopt those minutes? Moved by Mr. Greenspan, seconded by Mr. Giamatti. Discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The minutes are adopted. The approval of the minutes of the special meeting of October the 1st. I'm sorry, November the 1st. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Conwell and seconded by Ms. Simon. Is there any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Before we go to the executive, I just had a couple of comments I wanted to make. I had an opportunity today to participate in the groundbreaking for Campus Village at Cleveland State at 23rd and Chester, and it's going to be a whole village. I mean, it's like 278 market rate apartment buildings with 9 buildings, shops and restaurants, and exclusive parking, a movie theater and shops, and it'll have close proximity to the school. So this it's a university elementary K through 12 school. It has access to all of the university amenities. So it is a walking distance of Playhouse Square. So this is really a really major asset, and they did the groundbreaking today. It's close to I-90, and so it's going to be a really nice addition to our downtown. You can pass these down if you're interested. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank all of those who participated in last week's our special meeting devoted to veterans. I would especially like to thank the Color Guard from the United States Army recruiting station who did a color presentation for the flag. We had students from Villa Angela, St. Joseph's, and we had representatives from various veterans organizations. I'd like to thank Councilperson Tron for chairing the meeting. Council members were in budget hearings from 9 o'clock in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, and we had a special meeting at 6 o'clock, so it was a very, very long day. And I'd just like to recommend to citizens who did not have a chance to see our presentation of the various veteran groups to watch the meeting online. There was really a lot of very, very special information, and we're sending copies of that tape out to our local access channels so that it can be viewed, because there's a lot of information from the state, federal, and our own Veterans Service Commission that was very, very positive. And I'd like to thank George Phillips, our staff person, who did the lion's share of the work. And in closing, I also like to thank Regina Brett for mentioning in her column today and mentioning that the students had participated. And to my knowledge, that was the only opportunity, that was the only acknowledgement by the Plainviewer that we had this event. So I'd just like to thank Regina Brett for that. Finally, I would like to mention on behalf of the council that we have a new member of our Cuyahoga County Council family, and that is Catherine Mary McAleer, the daughter of our budget analyst, Trevor McAleer, and his wife, Sarah, and we'd like to congratulate them. Trevor has been with us about 3 months now, and he's done an outstanding job. However, I think that we may have made a major mistake in hiring him. I found out through Facebook, which has gotten a lot of employees in trouble, that Trevor is a secret Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Ooh. And this has put a serious doubt into his continued employment with the county. And to add insult to injury, he mentioned that he had his infant daughter, this poor infant child, forced to watch the Steelers game Sunday night. Boo. So, in order to rectify that situation, some of us council members went down to the Browns team shop, and we made a purchase out of our own pockets, not at county expense, a little sleeper.
You should grow into that.
That you can grow into. And the advantage about this wonderful Browns outfit is that it's brown and orange. And she will be recognizing that brown and orange early in life, because I've already talked to the president of Bowling Green State University and got her early admission. Okay? So this is our presentation to Trevor and his wife for this evening. Congratulations. Okay, message from our county executive.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a few quick items of some things that have transpired since we last met. First of all, I want to thank the council for their patience, and in particular for Councilman Brady's efforts in resolving the dispute that we had over the land bank situation. It's been resolved to, I think, just about everybody's satisfaction. It won't be a distraction anymore as we continue to work with them in their very important work. And it took a lot of patience and diplomacy, and Councilman Brady was a real asset to the council in resolving what could have been a bigger distraction for some very important work. So I just wanted to thank him and the council for that. Secondly, I also just want to express my gratitude to the council for the way the budget process has been proceeding and in such a timely fashion, and the level of attention and detail and appropriate oversight that you're giving to us. I think it's setting, as we've said so many times this year, we're trying to set a pattern for how these things should be done. And I want to commend Councilman Miller in particular for the way that he's conducted these hearings. They've been substantive and professional and productive, and we appreciate it. We'll keep trying to get better, and I think we'll be better next time we do it. But I think we're off to a pretty good start. I also want to invite council to participate with us through, I would assume, through your Public Safety Committee, but this process where we are convening some of the local police chiefs when it comes to trying to come up with a joint policy or an agreed upon policy for sex crime investigations and offenses in Cuyahoga County. One of my hopes for the Sheriff's Department and everything that we do in law enforcement is that, and I've been saying this all year, and I said it in the campaign last year also, is that the new county form of government, in addition to focusing on economic development and other things that we do, it is also, there was also a need in the community to have a more coordinated law enforcement strategy. And that part of that is to have consistent policies. And there's no area, I think, because of the sensitivity of the cases and the need, especially when dealing with the victims of sexual assaults and sexual crimes, there's no greater need for that than in the area of sex offenses. And so I have assigned a member of my staff to start compiling that data. We have a tentative date in December where we will be convening the police chiefs to begin these conversations. This is an involved process because just like we have a lot of different approaches in other policy areas, we certainly do in law enforcement as well. We cannot impose a system. We don't have that power, but we can hopefully point to some rational best practices that we can promote that will end up furthering the cause of justice and helping individuals who find themselves the victims of those types of crimes. So once we define a little bit more what we're doing, we will try to make a presentation to the appropriate council committee. Two other things just quickly. One is another thing that we've been working on is trying to engage with the young people of this community. If you look at metropolitan areas across the country that are succeeding, part of what they're doing is empowering and including young people in their policy discussions, in their discussions about innovation and technology and all of these things. And we've started to do that. We've had some partnership. I think there was a couple council people present actually with an event that we did jointly with the Civic Commons project. But we are also, and Justin Bibb has been our lead staffer on this, we're forming something that we're calling a Next Generation Council. We're talking about doing a town hall meeting just kind of for those people younger than me and most of you. And we're talking about doing that sometime in December on Cleveland State's campus. So we will keep you in the loop with that as much as possible. Because again, just making sure that we are regularly engaging young people is something that will make us a better government, and it will have a catalytic effect, I think, on a lot of what we do. Finally, I just wanted to, and I had to leave the room, so I wasn't able to comment on the MMPI process or presentation that you heard, but I just wanted to add on to that a little belatedly that First of all, I appreciate council participating in the meeting that we had a couple weeks ago with MMPI, where we asked them to come in from Chicago, give some of the details that all of you heard today. Councilman Schron and Council President Connolly were there at that meeting. We also really are seeking to formalize the engagement of the leaders in our local medical community because they really have the expertise when it comes to how this facility should really be integrated fully with the medical sector of our economy. We are tentatively talking about having the first kind of formal meeting of that performance review committee sometime in early December. That will be subject, of course, to your own availability to participate in that. But although I've been very upfront with MMPI about what my view is of that, I appreciate the additional details they've given about their business plan, but my attitude is a trust but verify attitude, and we have got to have defined performance benchmarks, and we have to admit that we are not necessarily the experts in how a medical trade facility should be run, and that's why I thought it was important to have some experts from outside the county to sit on this board. On the other hand, I don't think it should be totally internal. They already had some of these advisory panels, but they were not including public officials in that. We have a public duty that I think should be augmented with the expertise of some of these representatives that I've mentioned before, like Dr. Cosgrove, Tom Zenny, Beju Shaw, and others. I'm also open to additional appointments to that. It's not a formal appointment, but I'm open to the inclusion of additional individuals if you believe that it will further our effort to provide substantive oversight on the business plan implementation that they outlined for you today. That concludes my report. Thank you, Madam President.
Madam President. Madam President and my colleagues, I would like to make a motion pursuant to Rule 6B to add an item which would be resolution number R 2011-0324, which is the proposed tax lien sale, to the agenda as item B under number 13, which is first reading resolutions for passage under suspension.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Schron to amend the agenda. And you have a copy of this document at your places. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The agenda is so amended. Item 8, consideration of motions of council for first reading and referral to committee.
Motion number 2011-0050, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of individuals to serve on the Cleveland-Cuyahoga County Workforce Investment Board and declaring the necessity that this motion become immediately effective for the appointees as printed on the agenda, items 8A1 through 13.
This matter will refer to the Human Resources Committee.
Motion number 2011-0051, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of Christopher S. Ronayne to serve on the Cleveland-Cuyahoga County Port Authority Board of Directors and declaring the necessity that this motion become immediately effective.
This matter will refer to Human Resources.
Motion number 2011-0052, a motion amending Rule 9D of the Rules of the Cuyahoga County Council and declaring the necessity that this motion become immediately effective.
This matter will go to the Rules Committee. Okay, item 9, consideration of a motion of council for second reading and referral to committee.
Motion number 2011-0048, a motion establishing the 2012 schedule of county council meetings.
This matter referred to the Rules Committee, which is actually Council Affairs and Rules. Item 10, consideration of a resolution of council for first reading and referral to committee.
Resolution number 2011-0323, a resolution supporting a decision of the City of Cleveland zoning administrator to deny an application by Thai Incorporated to use property located at 4300 Bradley Road in the City of Cleveland for grading, filling, and excavation, including mining, removal, transfer, and sale of soils and minerals.
This matter will be referred to the Environmental and Sustainability Committee. Item 11, consideration of an ordinance of council for first reading and referral to committee.
Ordinance number 2011-0053, an ordinance establishing a Department of Consumer Affairs and the powers and duties of the Director of Consumer Affairs, and placing the duties and responsibilities of the operation of weights and measures of the county under the direction of the Department of Consumer Affairs.
And I think you were adding my name to as a sponsor on this?
Yes, I will add your name.
Okay, and this matter is being referred to the Environmental and Sustainability Committee. Item 12, committee report and consideration of an ordinance of council for third reading adoption.
Ordinance number 2011-0041, an ordinance authorizing, enacting, and designating an additional 5% of all collections of delinquent real property, personal property, and manufactured and mobile home taxes and assessments to be deposited in the Delinquent Tax and Assessment Collection Fund for the use of and appropriating such amount to the use of the Cuyahoga County Land Reutilization Corporation and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Jones. Mr. Brady.
Madam Council President, this is essentially the green light for funding the land bank for 1 year, and they'll be back to us next year. And we are changing the funding formula. But first, I'd just like to say that the success of the land bank has become a national model in the effort to stabilize the neighborhoods during the current foreclosure crisis and reutilize the property in distressed communities. The land bank is a very supportive partner in the economic development projects of the city, dramatically illustrated by the project in East Cleveland with the University Circle, Inc. And the land bank is an important partner in the redevelopment of that hard-pressed city. This legislation would change the way that we fund the land bank from the DTAN to the DTAX. The resolution would alter one portion of the funding method of the land bank. The land bank is currently funded with the penalty and interest generated on collected delinquent taxes. Once collected, the principal tax is dispersed to the taxing district by the treasurer, but the penalty and interest from these delinquencies are directed to the land bank. This occurs twice per year, once after the first half collection and again after the second half collection. Additionally, at the close of the second half collection, penalties and interests are directed to the land bank of penalties and interest projected to be collected after the second half closing through the following June the 30th. For this to happen, the county purchases delinquent tax anticipation notes known as DTANs. These notes are purchased by the county and the proceeds are given to the land bank. The notes are repaid as the delinquent taxes, penalties, and interests are received over a short period of time. The land bank pays interest on these notes to the county. This process is complex and is based on forecasting rather than actual calculations. Although it may yield more money to the land bank, it is also a process that involves security counsel and underwriting costs that are associated with this method. It is this portion of the land bank's funding that this resolution proposes to modify. The revised code authorizes the county land banks to be funded in the way described above, or a combination of the above and an increase in what is known as the DTAC assessment. Under existing law throughout all counties, the law requires that 5% of all collected delinquent taxes, penalties, and interests be directed to the prosecutor and the treasurer for the purpose of paying for and administering the collection of delinquent taxes. Half of this 5% goes to the prosecutor and half goes to the treasurer for these collection efforts. The land bank, the new land bank law allows this 5% to be increased up to a total of 10%, with the increase going to the land banks. In exchange for this modification of the land bank's funding method, it will no longer be necessary to utilize the DTAN. Based on several presentations, the use of the DTAC funds, which include the penalty and interest, is essentially revenue neutral across the county spectrum, using the land bank's current base funding as the starting point. Some taxing districts will forego a little more penalty and interest, while others will gain some. The point is, however, that the change is nominal and, more importantly, based on actual collection rather than forecasted collections. So all of the DTAN will be eliminated from the land bank's funding. It will be replaced with a more simple and cost-effective and accurate increase of the DTAC, which this resolution provides. Also, whereas the land bank funding under the old formula would result in slightly more than $7 million using the current year as its base, the resolution caps the funding under the new method at $7 million. The law director, and I know we've had quite a few discussions about this over the course of the last couple of months. The law director has informed me that he would like this legislation to be amended, and I would like to call on the law director, Madam President, to explain the nature of the amendment that he is asking for.
All right, and I think copies are passed out of the proposed amendment?
I think
Yeah,
so.
okay.
And this is a, Madam President, members, council, this is a very technical amendment. Basically, what's happening is the clerk of council with the council staff and the law department is moving forward on the codification of the codified ordinances. And keeping that in mind, when the code goes in place, what goes in the code is the part that goes after be it enacted, and then the following portions become the code. What happens is in this ordinance, you have a term that is defined in the first whereas clause, which is the maximum base funding amount is defined as $7 million. But then when you go to the body of the ordinance, section 2, it says in any single fiscal year, shall not exceed the maximum base funding amount, but it doesn't, it's already defined in the ordinance, so it doesn't define it. The issue that comes up is when this goes in the code, the whereas clause is not going to be there, so it's just simply a clarification, adding $7 million so that it's so that somebody looking at the code will not be confused what that term means.
Does anybody have any questions about the amendment? I'm going to move it. Yes, I am. I'm acting like I'm chairing the committee,
All
but
right.
I'm not. I'd like to move to amend Section 2 to add bolded and underlined language as follows. Notwithstanding the provisions of Section 1 of this ordinance, the aggregate amount transferred to the corporation from the DTAC fund and the county land reutilization fund in any single fiscal year of the corporation shall not exceed $7 million. That's the amendment. Do I have a second?
It's moved by Mr. Brady and seconded by Mr. Germana. Is there any discussion on the amendment? All right, all those in favor of the amendment indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion is so amended. I'm sorry, the ordinance is so amended. Oh, are there any negative votes? All right, there are hearing that. Oh, Mr. Greenspan, did you vote no? Yes. Okay. I voted no. All right. So we have, everyone else is voting yes. Is that correct? Okay. All right. Is there any discussion on the ordinance as amended?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Miller.
Madam President and my colleagues, I would like to join the executive in just commending Councilman Brady for wading deeply into the weeds on both the DTAC funding method and the board structure for these many months. It's truly been a labor of love for the county, and just would add one item regarding the legislation that Treasurer Sensenbrenner is estimating that the new funding method will be easier to administer by a factor of 50 to 1. So it will be helpful. Thank you.
Mr. Schrein?
Yes, I intend to support the legislation on the basis and the commitment that we've received that it will not cause undue costs going to the communities by the time you get a net on this. So I'd love it to get a monitoring factor back in 6 months, 8 months, as to see how it really does have that effect on that, Mr. Steen, so that I do intend to support it because of the cost savings, the efficiency of what's being brought forth. I just would love, as I heard from our county executive, trust but verify. And so I would love to verify again in 6 months for the basis of my communities. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Greenspan?
Well, I will not be supporting this legislation, as I've stated all along. I cannot support legislation that's going to take money away from any school board, municipality, or library. I don't need to say any more. I think my colleagues know where I stand. We've had many committee meetings on this, so I will not be supporting it for that reason. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Ms. Simon?
Thank you very much. I will be supporting this ordinance, and particularly because the land bank is the one stabilizing force we have in this current housing and foreclosure crisis. We've been seeing an increase in home walkaways, leaving our neighborhoods blighted and dangerous. it's important to strengthen this tool and enable our neighborhoods to continue on in a safe manner. And I fully support this and understand that this is the one remedy we have at our disposal, and we're unique that we're a model for this. And I just praise the work that the Land Bank's done, and of course, Councilman Brady, who's assisted in resolving the issues. So I ask my colleagues to join this important step.
And I believe Mr. Frangos is here. Thank you for your hard work. All right, is there any other discussion? Yes.
I apologize. I want to be clear that I support the land bank and what it does. I'm just opposed to taking more money out of the municipalities, school boards, and libraries at this point. So clearly value the land bank, as I said in a letter to Mr. Frangos. I just have an issue with this switching of the funding source. That's all.
Yes, Ms. Simon?
I was never indicating otherwise, and we've had these discussions throughout our committee, and it's just a value judgment of what's going to be most expedient to our community to increase our land values and how that's going to happen. So I respect my colleague's opinion.
All right, Madam Clerk, you call the roll.
Okay, we originally had a motion by Mr. Miller with a second by Mr. Jones, and approving the motion as amended. Calling the roll, Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan? No. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Germana?
Yes, please add my name.
Mr. Gallagher?
No.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Item 13, consideration of a resolution for first reading adoption under suspension of the rules, Rules 9A and 9D, and 12A. Ms. Simon?
Madam President, I move we suspend the rules.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it, the rules are suspended. Item 0314.
In this section, we needed the rules suspended for Resolution 2011-0324. Does that include that as well?
Yes, they're suspended as to all the items on 13 because we amended the agenda for 13 to add 13B.
Thank you.
That's the tax lien.
Resolution number 2011-0314, a resolution amending the 2011 annual appropriation measure by providing for additional fiscal appropriations from the general fund and other funding sources for appropriation transfers between budget accounts and for cash transfers between budgetary funds in order to meet the budgetary needs of various county departments, offices, and agencies, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
To adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Rogers. Is there any discussion on this?
Madam,
Yes, Mr.
this has very routine items, mainly applying to implementing grants, and we have bigger fish to fry than this with the budget, and I support going ahead and approving it.
I thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. The additional add-on, item B, 0324, of which you have a copy.
Resolution number 2011-0324, a resolution authorizing an award to Wood Cove 2 LLC as purchaser and Axis Capital Management Incorporated, Wood Cove 2 LLC as purchaser and Axis Capital Management Incorporated as servicer in the amount not to exceed $17,447,242.28 for the sale of tax lien certificates, authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement consistent with said award and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective. This resolution has been sponsored by the County Executive Fitzgerald through the Fiscal Officer and the County Treasurer.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Schrein and seconded by Mr. Rogers. Ms. Justine, I did not know a lot about tax lien sales, and I know a little bit more now, and I'd like you to give a brief explanation so people watching or in the public could know what we're talking about here.
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. It's a great day, assuming that everyone is in support of this legislation and we can enter this contract. If I can, I want to back up just a step to tell you how we got to where we are. The county executive appointed a task force to look at delinquent taxes. That task force included Council President Conley, members of the community. That task force met a number of times, as well as myself meeting personally with the members of APAC. We met with as many of the CDCs as we could at the urging and at the direction of Councilman Brady. We met with lending institutions. We met with the economic development groups of the local municipalities and talked about our plan to do a tax lien sale. At that time, we were looking at a tax lien sale that would have included 8,103 parcels, totaling about $49 million. We're here tonight to give you some of the facts of what's happened since those mailings went out. Since the mailings went out, we've collected in cash on taxes that were part of this potential tax lien sale of $2.23 million. We've put $16.56 million on payment plans. People got the notice, came in and paid. The amount in the legislation says up to $17 million. What we're going to put before you is $14,455,669.17, which represents 2,329 parcels. When you add all that up and get all that said and done, what started at $49 million meant $19 million in cash and plans, another $14 million. So we ended up with over $30 million, $33 million from the idea that we said we need to do a tax lien sale to take a look at our delinquent tax issue in Cuyahoga County. That's by no means the solution, but I think it would be safe to say $30 million is a step in the right direction. And the schools and the libraries and others are going to benefit. And the better part of that, and I'm going to ask County Treasurer Sensenbrenner to come up because I know he has some members of his staff, and the law director, because they are the ones that did the negotiation. This is the largest tax lien sale that will occur. Franklin County had a tax lien sale, and we don't know what the amount is. It might not have come off. Summit County had a tax lien sale for about $7 million. The other positive is we got the list right and we got the terms right. One of the other things is as we were negotiating the contract, as Treasurer Sensenbrenner and Law Director McGlue for negotiating the contract, we called the county prosecutor's office and had them sit down and look at the contract and say, is there anything in here that would make it easier when we get to foreclosure? And so the county prosecutor was part of this process. So I can say without a doubt, you've got the most locked down contract as it relates to tax lien sales. I would venture a guess that other counties are going to want to take our process. Summit County's contract was less than 2 pages. We looked at it, we don't even know what they're doing, other than here's $8 million, here's our contract. The deal almost fell apart a couple times. And as we shared with this council and at the direction of the executive, we were willing to walk away if they weren't going to do it the way that we wanted to do it in Cuyahoga County. And so they did do it that way. Assuming approval tonight of this legislation, within a few days, more than $14 million is going to be wired to the county, and then we'll go about the process of getting that settled out to the political subdivision so that groups like the Cleveland City Schools, the libraries, and others can benefit from the efforts of the county treasurer and the law director and others. But I do want to give County Treasurer Sensenbrenner a chance to share, because he is actually the one that did all the work at the end in terms of negotiating this contract and getting it done.
Thank you, Wade. Madam President and council members, I'll be very brief, but I just simply want to thank a few people, if I can have your indulgence in that in this effort. First and foremost, of course, Wade Steen for his leadership on this effort. But there were a number of critical people in the Treasurer's office. I would just like to recognize Christy Neff, who is the tax certificate program manager for the last 10 years for the Treasurer's office. And Christy, if you just stand real quick. Thank you, Christy. Michael Sweeney was instrumental in the process. He's the director of our tax department. Bruce Nimrick was instrumental, and he's an administrator with the Treasurer's office. But I'd also like to just thank the entire tax collection team, all the employees in the Treasurer's office, because as many of you know from walking the administration building late at night, you saw those employees in the treasurer's office putting in many late nights, all related to processing tax payments associated with the third billing and with the tax lien sale. Obviously answering phones in the tens of thousands and executing almost 4,000 contracts, payment plans for taxpayers in our county who are obviously struggling in difficult times. A big thanks goes to our law director, Majid Makhlouf, who was instrumental in helping to draft the contract and spent untold hours assisting the treasurer's office. So, and of course, I would very humbly and seriously like to thank council because your input was absolutely critical during this process and certainly kept myself on the straight and narrow. So I very much appreciate that. So thank you. And it certainly was a team effort among all those parties, including county council.
All right, thank you. All right, any questions? Okay, we got lots of questions. Why don't we start down here, Mr. Rogers, and work our way around?
Great, thank you. I'm not sure who's best prepared to answer the question, but when we did the RFP for the sale, there were a number of terms that were listed, and I was quite proud of the work you guys have put in identifying these terms that under previous tax lien sales had hurt some of our residents. I'm wondering, you said there was a lot of negotiation going on with this particular deal, and I'm wondering if any of those terms have changed.
No, to the council member through the council president. No, all the representations made here at our public hearing that you held strong throughout the negotiations. The negotiations really boiled down to an incredible amount of clarification to make sure each party was totally clear in terms of what was being asked of each party. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really just want to share with you a conversation I had with a constituent who had a tax sale lien issue. And I think it kind of really brings it down to earth, all of the things that we're doing. This constituent lived in Baltimore, Maryland, and because of illness came to Cleveland, and their home was in a tax lien sale. It was part of those delinquent taxes in the Baltimore County. And she got that call saying her house could potentially go to foreclosure unless she paid her back debt. And because of sickness in that year, I believe she said it was 08, and paying her taxes all the subsequent years in 09 and in 10, she thought she was current and didn't understand why she had a problem back in 08. Her debt had obviously been sold by that county to a third-party company. So she was current in all her other years, but she was delinquent back in 08. So she was distraught, and she was a senior, didn't really understand, and didn't do any more than help her to do what she needed to do, which was to pay the back debt, which she did. But it also went to show that what I would call a lack of social responsibility on the part of that third-party company, that she was not notified about her back debt. Now, she had a home that was valued at probably $125,000, I believe she said, and she just didn't get any notification. And as a result of that, if she had lost her home, she wouldn't have paid the couple $1,000s in back debt she owed. She would have lost her home. Had that house been worth a couple $1,000s, a home that wasn't worth as much as the debt, she could have potentially, and she wasn't, but potentially could have been harassed about the debt she was owed because they would have wanted to collect that. So I commend you all for putting in parameters that require a sense of responsibility on the vendors to notify people in a timely manner about the debt they owe, not to harass people, but to let them know on a regular basis. And it's reflected in the amount of money you have collected. You could have gotten the full $49 million, but it could have been detrimental to the community, to our seniors, to those, to every resident in the county. So I commend you for the 14.6 million you've gotten, and the 16+ million that you've received in payments. And our residents of this county and those we represent will be well served by what you've done today.
Thank you, Councilman.
Madam President, if I may, just
Yes.
a quick clarification for the record, just to make sure that the record is clear, because one of the questions that was asked in terms of changes to the notice of tax sale, none of the terms that affect the taxpayers changed. If anything, they were strengthened in some ways. To give you examples, one of the conditions was, that the purchaser cannot have delinquent taxes. What we went in is we put conditions as to who they can assign. So we didn't want to have a situation where somebody purchases and they don't have delinquent taxes, but they turn around and sell it to somebody who has delinquent taxes. So we put additional protections there. Where there was one item that changed is there was a condition to purchase subsequent tax liens for a period of 2 years. That was shortened to 1 year period, but that does not affect the taxpayers in any way, shape, or form. That's just sort of a business decision. I just wanted the record to be clear on that issue.
All right, thank you. Mr. Miller?
Madam President, Treasurer, did the purchaser agree to buy all the tax liens that we offered for sale or only a subset thereof?
We put all the certificates on our website upon, the invitation to bid. And then interested bidders could select the ones they wanted to bid upon. And they put a bid on $17 million. And then what's happened since the date of that bid is we've had redemptions. And so now it's around $14 million. Oh, please.
Councilman, I think the direct answer is they did not get to pick and choose. They didn't cherry pick the list, but they didn't buy them all because we pulled some off at the request of a CDC or at the request of the city of Cleveland. We pulled off parcels from the list, but they didn't dictate the list to us. We dictated it to them.
So Madam President, to Mr. Steen, whatever ones we offered, they purchased all of them. Is that correct?
Correct. They gave us a bid on that whole list.
On the whole package. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Greenspan?
Thank you, Madam President. Do we have an idea yet, a list of the schools, libraries and municipalities, how much they're going to be receiving? Obviously, it's based on where the property is located, but do we have a breakdown as to where that is? And if so, can we receive a copy of it?
To the councilman through the council president, I do have that request in my notes that you requested from the public hearing, and we will be getting that to you now that we have the final list and the final dollar amount. So you should get that hopefully within the next couple days.
And then just to follow up, when will the checks be in the mail, so to speak? To
the councilman through the council president, the way that the contract is structured, tomorrow afternoon we should get 50% of the approximate $15 million per the contract, and then the other 50% will come in within 30 days.
And then, I'm sorry, Madam President, so you'll send all of it out when you get 100% of the funds, or will you do it what's the
No,
protocol?
it will be just like anyone, even one taxpayer coming in and pay right now, whether it's one person or whether it's 3,000 parcels all in one fell swoop. It will go out to the districts in our normal settlement process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Brady?
Thank you, Madam Council President. I just wanted to thank Mr. Steen and Mr. Steinbrenner, Stinsenbrenner, sorry, for responding, rapidly to the concern out in the community, particularly in my district, from the CDCs and from individuals, and I very much appreciate that.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, we're prepared to vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right, item 14, consideration of resolutions for first reading and referral to committee. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2011-0315, a resolution authorizing a contract with HNTB Ohio Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $467,910 for design engineering services for reconstruction with additional turning lanes of Royalton Road from West 130th Street to York Road in the city of North Royalton, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This will go with Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0316, a resolution approving right-of-way plans as set forth in preliminary right-of-way plat M5011 for the relining of Snow Road Bridge number 220 over the west branch of Big Creek in the city of Brook Park, authorizing the county executive through the Department of Public Works to acquire the necessary right-of-way, finding that special assessments will neither be levied nor collected to pay for any part of the county's costs of said improvement, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
So go to Public Works.
Madam President,
Yes.
I'd like to ask my name be added.
Okay, we add Mr. Miller's name to that.
Resolution number 2011-0317, a resolution approving right-of-way plans as set forth in preliminary right-of-way plat M4985 for improvement of Pleasant Valley Road, Bagley Road, from Pearl Road to York Road in the cities of Middleburg Heights and Parma, authorizing the county executive through the Department of Public Works to acquire the necessary right-of-way, finding that special assessments will neither be levied nor collected to pay for any part of the county's costs of said improvement, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Let's go to Public Works.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could you please add my name?
All right, Mr. Germana's name adds that. It's a 0317.
Resolution number 2011-0318, a resolution authorizing a contract with Reserve Apartments in the amount of $2,400,205.56 for lease of office space located at 1701 East 17th Street, Cleveland, for use by various county divisions and a department for the period October 1, 2011 through September 30, 2014, and authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with this resolution.
Let's go to Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0319, a resolution authorizing the donation of approximately 20 acres of land known as preservation parcels to the Board of Park Commissioners of the Cleveland Metropolitan Park District for wetlands mitigation in connection with improvement and construction of Crocker Stearns Extension from Lorraine Road to the North Olmsted North Corporation line, and the grading, draining, paving, and widening of Stearns Road from Interstate 480 to Lorraine Road in the cities of North Olmsted and Westlake, and authorizing the county executive to execute all documents required in connection with said donation of land.
This goes to Public Works and also Environment and Sustainability, so the co-chairmen can work out a date on that.
Madam President?
Yes.
It's in my district. Can I be added?
Oh, okay. Add Mr. Greenspan to that.
Resolution number 2011-0320, a resolution amending the 2011 annual appropriation measure by providing for additional fiscal appropriations from the general fund and other funding sources, for appropriation transfers between budget accounts, and for cash transfers between budgetary funds in order to meet the budgetary needs of various county departments, offices, and agencies related to year-end closeout activities, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This will be referred to Finance and Budget.
Madam President,
Yeah, Mr. Miller.
may I ask a question to the Director of Budget and Management regarding this item? If everybody would turn to page 151 of your book and look at this item, as you see, it provides for the closeouts at the end of the year, and it doesn't actually list the changes, but just lists them as to be determined by OBM. And my question is whether the administration is expecting us to pass this in this form, or at some point are you going to give us the actual list of proposed changes, and when would that be?
Madam President, to the member of council, what we're asking and requesting is to place this item in as a placeholder. And we'll be submitting 2 more normal biweekly fiscal agendas on December 6th and the 13th. So you'll see those items and vote on them as you normally do. As part of our year-end closeout, though, between that last regular scheduled council meeting and approximately the first week of January, we're working with staff and general accounting to make sure all the items, financial items related to 2011 post against the 2011 budget. And part of that work is somewhat technical and detail intensive, is making sure we're moving appropriation mainly between individual budget accounts and sometimes between budgets themselves. And what we've done in the past is utilize what we call this blanket resolution. So you're approving the authority, or giving us the authority to go ahead and start queuing up these adjustments and allowing the general accounting staff to actually journal those changes in the accounting system so they can continue posting year-end items. Once we're done working on the closeout process, the first week of January, we would submit the final, in essence, is a fiscal agenda that includes all those year-end items that we've requested in order to get things to close out. And it helps us close out by January 10th, thereabouts, and we work again in conjunction with general accounting. And so what you're approving is, in the end, you'll see the final fiscal items. We do not do additional appropriation for new items. We don't do cash transfers. It's mainly transfers and a few adjustments where necessary to close out.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Miller.
Director, if we're going to do this through biweekly fiscal adjustment ordinances, why do we need this legislation?
Madam President, to member of council, we need to be able to process those adjustments as we identify them and submit them to general accounting. Normally, with the regular biweekly fiscal agenda process, we'll create the agenda, submit to council, you approve it, that gets signed, and the resolution winds its way down to general accounting. They'll actually go in and start entering those actual budget entries in the accounting system, and that takes care of any of the business that was necessary to create those items. With year end, because we're working on a compressed time and there are no more regular meetings scheduled, what we're asking for is the ability to submit those items to general counsel based on the blanket authority you're giving us to prepare the items, have them journaled and in place so we can see the impacts in the accounting system. And then at the end, we have a final agenda or fiscal item, list of fiscal items that have already been processed. We've closed out the year, and you have the ability to see all the items that we've requested in the budget, which again, it's more or less truing up within individual accounts to make sure items, paying bills, contractual payments hit the 2011 budget and don't spill into 2012. So it becomes more of a timing issue. That's why we've done this in the past.
Madam President, Director, I have concern about passing legislation in this form where we're authorizing what we don't know what it is. And we got to give some thought to this process. And the reason why I brought this up tonight rather than waiting till it comes to committee is so that people can start thinking about it.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I concur with Mr. Miller. This idea is kind of blanket authority, and we get these items like the day before, and there's numerous items that we don't have an opportunity to review, and so I think I appreciate Mr. Miller's candor and kind of giving you a heads up that this is what we're going to be asking for.
Yes.
And so in the committee meeting, I intend to attend this finance committee meeting, although I'm not on this committee, because it's, I don't understand, you're doing these adjustments every week, and you're kind of asking us for like a year-end cleanup, and we have questions about that.
Yes.
Okay.
You'll see it's extremely boring when you actually see what we've done in years past.
All right, well, Mr. Miller's going to, okay,
Chair?
well, yes, Mr. Germana.
Are these the leftovers that haven't been spent that are actually going to be what we're passing to transfer what was not used into the next correct budget year?
Councilor Germana, it's really, we're in this interim period because we're going to submit one last fiscal agenda that you'll be able to approve. That'll get posted in the accounting system. then we still have a 3-week period where there are no fiscal agendas submitted to council, but we have a need for expediency to, as you get towards the end of the year, the appropriation-free balances are running very low. So we're shuffling around to make sure things post. So it's at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, there's high amounts of appropriation balance in all the budget accounts. So things just hit. As you get towards the end, you may be down in one line and need to post a payment for something, a voucher, and we simply just move appropriation between lines so that hits. Again, the goal is to hit 2011 and not have things spill into 2012, because one way or the other, they're going to be accounted for. It's preferable to have everything hit 2011 and not impact 2012. The other main reason we do this is, again, for expediency. We want to be able to close out in January, and it saves us some time if we're able to submit those items directly to the general accounting so they can get them in the system, and then come back with the final complete list of budget adjustments or transfers that we used to get through that year-end process.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Miller.
Director, would it be possible to, that all of the large items be in a transfer ordinance that we would see before December 13th, and that only small items would remain, or is there no way to get to the end of the year without having some transfers of large items at the end?
Councilman Miller, I could probably get back to you on that. I don't suspect we'd have any large items. A lot of these are small. And if it's helpful, I could provide last year's eventual year-end resolution for fiscal items to give you an idea of what the population of transactions looks like. There are a lot of small items. It's really, again, it's cleanup. And again, we stay away from we're not doing any appropriation items for any new program. As we progress through the third quarter and into fourth quarter, we're taking care of a lot of these now because you're approving them as part of the regular submission of that fiscal agenda. So we're getting down to really small true-ups and realignments. And we're also not requesting cash transfers. That's Section 3 of the biweekly agenda. We don't do those items in the year-end cleanup.
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. Miller.
Since this is designed for year-end cleanup, would this legislation not need to be passed until December 13th, or is there some reason why it's needed sooner?
Councilman Miller, no, it could be approved December 13th.
Okay.
All right,
That
all right,
gives
thank
us
you.
some time
That's
to
very
figure it out.
informative, and I'm
Okay.
sure if individual council members have questions, but I think we would appreciate that, basically what you did last year.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So we'll go to finance and budget, and Mr. Miller is going to work out a date to have a meeting of his committee. Item 0321.
Madam Chair, if I may just ask a question about that, and I'm thinking maybe some of the question has to do with the piece of legislation itself. Maybe there would be a more appropriate way of structuring it than we usually do with the biweekly transfers, cash transfers and everything. So maybe we should be having like some whereas clauses explaining what their process is for what exactly it is they're asking council to approve. And because eventually when you get that, what changes were done in January, it's going to become its own numbered piece of legislation. So perhaps maybe this legislation through the budget director and the law director, we could come up with some whereas, and it would be a little more direct and explanatory than the way it stands right now.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Resolution number 2011-0321, a resolution authorizing awards and requisition number 20783 to various providers in the total amount of $900,000 for real estate appraisal services for the sheriff's sale for the period January 1, 2012 through December 31, 2014, and authorizing the county executive to execute agreements consistent with said awards. For the providers, as printed on the agenda, items G1 through 14.
Let's go to Human Resources.
Resolution number 2011-0322, a resolution authorizing an award on requisition number 21041 to Court Community Service in the amount of $555,000 for court community placement and supervision services for probationers for the period January 1, 2012 through December 31, 2014, authorizing the county executive to execute a contract consistent with said award and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This matter will go to Justice Affairs. Item 15, committee report and consideration of resolution for second reading, adoption, and suspension of the rules. Rule 9D. Ms. Simon?
Madam President, I move we suspend the rules.
All right, moved by Ms. Simon, seconded by Mr. Gallagher. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Item 0297.
Resolution number 2011-0297, a resolution declaring the necessity of submitting to the electors of Cuyahoga County the question of a renewal levy of 4.8 mil Health and Human Services levy for the purpose of supplementing general fund appropriations for health and human or social services for a period of 4 years outside the 10 mil limitation in accordance with the provision of Section 5705.191 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Brady and seconded by Mr. Rogers. Is there any discussion on this?
Yes, Madam Council President.
Mr. Brady?
Obviously, this resolution and the next one will allow the county to go forward to place a levy on the ballot. We assume that that will be March the 6th. If the elections don't, will stop moving around on us. We do this. We are not going to be raising the millage. This is the same level that we've had in the past, although we do expect it to bring in less money because of the property values. I think it would, if any of the councilmen would like to hear a very brief or ask any questions of Director Warner, that we've had lots of discussions in Health and Human Services. I think everybody pretty much gets the idea, but if there's any need for that.
Any questions?
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. Miller?
I would just add that, as Councilman Brady said, we are taking a very conservative approach in placing a measure on the ballot that is for the same millage for the same length of time of 4 years and is actually going to raise less money because of reappraisal. And it funds very important safety net services ranging from mental health to mental health, hospital protection of children, adoption, foster care, employment services, senior services, and many important other services. And so I hope that the voters will see the importance and value of these services as they have in the past and approve the renewal levy on March the 6th. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of item 0297 indicate by saying aye. Aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Item 0298.
Add my name.
Add Mr. Miller's name.
Madam President, mine as well.
Mine also.
And me too.
Is there anyone who doesn't want their name added? Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry, Ms. Simon, did you want to make a comment? I didn't see you.
It's late. I just wanted to say that when we looked at the school levy outcomes, that what typically passed were renewals rather than replacements. So I just was going to say this is a prudent way to go at this point in time. That's all.
You want to be heard, Mr. Fitzgerald?
No.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought.
You give me bad signals over here.
I'm sorry, I thought.
There's something on a previous item that I wanted to mention before the meeting is over, but not on this item.
Okay,
They can wait.
all right. We won't forget you.
Moving on to resolution number 2011-0298, a resolution determining to proceed with submitting to the electors of Cuyahoga County to renew an existing 4.8 mil Health and Human Services levy for the purpose of supplementing general fund appropriations for health and human or social services for a period of 4 years outside the 10 mil limitation in accordance with the provisions of Section 5705.191 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Ms. Conwell. Any discussion?
Madam President?
Yes.
I just had a question on why we need the two resolutions?
That's a good question for the director.
Okay.
We heard them actually separately in committee.
Mr. Chairman, to the Councilman Rep Warner from the Office of Health and Human Services, I will probably maybe have to defer to the Law Department. I'm assuming that the resolutions need to be separated because one declares the necessity of going forward with the levy, and the second one actually submits the levy as declared for necessity to the Board of Elections for approval for placement on the ballot. I don't know if Mr. McClure has.
No, that is absolutely correct. The Ohio Revised Code speaks of two resolutions, one declaring the necessity and one actually taking the action. And with something of this nature, we could have combined them into one, but we didn't want to test it. We followed the exact letter of the Revised Code.
Okay, any other question, discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Resolution is adopted. Item 0299.
Assuming I'm adding all council members to that
Yes.
legislation
Yes.
as well. Okay. Resolution number 2011-0299, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract with Educational Service Center of Cuyahoga County in the amount not to exceed $2,254,718 for fiscal and administrative services for the Help Me Grow home visiting program for the period July 1, 2011 through June 30, 2012.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Brady and seconded by Mr. Miller. Is there any discussion on this item? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Item 0300.
Resolution number 2011-0300, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract with Educational Service Center of Cuyahoga County in the amount not to exceed $2,375,034 for fiscal and administrative services for the Federal Part C Early Intervention Program for the Invest in Children program for the period July 1, 2011 through June 30, 2012.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Brady, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Is there any discussion?
I just want to say that this is a pass-through of state and federal funds. Both resolutions are simply pass-through of funds.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Item 0303.
Resolution number 2011-0303, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of County of Cuyahoga, Ohio Economic Development Refunding Revenue Bonds, Series 2011, Gilmore Academy Project, in the amount not to exceed $10 million for the purpose of currently refunding Series 2009 bonds issued by the County of Cuyahoga, which assisted in financing the costs of a project within the meaning of Chapter 165, Ohio Revised Code, providing for the pledge of revenues for the payment of such bonds, authorizing the execution of various documents required in connection with said bond issuance, and authorizing and approving related matters, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Shrine and seconded by Mr. Miller. Mr. Shrine, did you want to be heard on this? This came out of your committee.
It's a refinancing for the benefit of their program, and it's going to save them, I think, 2+ points of interest alone just on this. So was it how many? 4 points? No. Was it 4 points? Okay. No, it was a big. Yeah, it was a big number, and it was very easy for them to understand, to rationalize on $10 million. They were consolidating.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Item 0304.
Resolution number 2011-0304, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into contracts with various providers for placement services for the period October 1, 2011 through June 30, 2012, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective for the providers and in the amounts not to exceed as printed on the agenda, items F1 through 28.
Move.
Second.
I moved by Mr. Brady and seconded by Mr. Gallagher. Any discussion on it?
Yes, Madam Chairperson. I think that this is this is about a $25 million item, as I recall, and there's a history to this that will be very familiar to everyone as soon as they hear a little bit about it. But I don't want to delay the meeting, but I think it would be helpful if the director would remind us of how we got here and where we are.
Madam Chair and members of council, Rick Warner from the Office of Health and Human Services on behalf of the Department of Children and Family Services. You may recall, as Councilman Brady is referring to, that we brought a series of contracts that look very much like this to you back in late February, I believe. These are the board and care, residential service, and foster care contracts for the Department of Children and Family Services. When the new government came in and we presented to the county executive the set of contracts that we had done for 2011, he asked us to go and do a request for proposal process that we had not done before to procure these contracts. And he recommended, and we went with the recommendation, to enter into 9-month contracts that began last January through September 30th of this year while we went through an RFP process. We did do an RFP, and I will say that the results of the RFP were disappointing in the sense that the kind of price sensitivity and programmatic elements weren't to the satisfaction of the department. And so we came back and made a recommendation to the county executive that we enter into another 9-month set of contracts so that we could go out and do a more, I guess I'll call it, sophisticated RFP. We have engaged the Casey Foundation, the Annie Casey Foundation, which, as you may know, does a lot of nationwide consulting on child welfare, and they have, through part of their support for the county and the Department of Children and Family Services, supplied us with a nationally known expert on the procurement of board and care contracts, who we are now working with in the attempts to develop a more sophisticated and we hope more responsive RFP. We expect to issue that RFP early in 2012 so that we can have contracts coming back to you with the executive's approval that would begin July 1st of 2012, and that's why you have a set of 9-month contracts in front of you. The terms and conditions and rates for the contracts in front of you are the same terms and condition and rates that we had for the contracts that you considered and approved back in February. You may recall also that you passed a fiscal item for the department a couple of weeks ago to essentially borrow $25 million, to Councilman Brady's point, from next year's allocation for the board in Carolina DCFS, so we could put it into this year's budget in order to be able to enter into these contracts, which cross 2011 and into the first half of 2012. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions that you have.
Yeah, the initial period contract were 9 months. This is 9 months. Is the RFP planning on, hopefully, you're not going to tell us it's going to be for 6 months, I hope, are you?
We were thinking 3 months, Councilman. No, I'm just joking. No, we are anticipating doing contracts at least for the length of the biennial budget. I mean, so we could imagine taking them from July 1st, 2012
months, okay,
through December 31st, 2013.
Just can't help but think you're going to be more conducive for the businesses to be supportive of 18 months versus 9-month contracts out there.
And Madam Chair, to the Councilman, one of the issues that we've raised with the consultant that we're working with, and we hope to do a set of focus groups probably with the providers that we work with, is to your question, Councilman Sean, to put in front of them the question about how long a term could we enter into with them that might allow them to spread their administrative costs over a longer period of time and therefore bring down the administrative costs potentially over a longer period. And that's one of the things that we want to explore in the devising of the new RFP.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Rogers?
So, what were the major problems identified from the proposals that we received? Was the major issue that the administrative costs were too high, or were we just not able to communicate through the RFP exactly what we need, or I'm finding difficulty on.
Madam Chair, to the councilman, I think that and I take responsibility for this, the RFP went out while I was over at the Department of Children and Family Services as the acting director before Pat Rideout arrived. I mean, I think that what we did was a fairly standard county RFP for the purchase of these types of services. I think when we got the proposals back and we looked at them, it wasn't so much that the administrative costs were necessarily out of whack, but we just didn't see, frankly, any movement on a more perhaps sophisticated way of working with us in terms of pricing the kind of services that we hope to buy. And in fairness to the providers, I don't know that in fact, we did not do a good job within the department of setting forth that requirement, and we're hoping that by working with a consultant who has worked with other major child welfare organizations across the country, we can devise a more prescriptive approach to try to get proposals that will be both will serve the needs of the kids and families that we must serve, as well as trying to incorporate more, I would say, up-to-date and modern looks at their pricing and costs. And part of that requires us to get more sophisticated in our understanding of the way that not only does our funding play into this, but as you may be aware, that the providers pull down some federal funding, Medicaid funding through the 4E program that helps to offset some of these costs, and we need to understand how that process works better. And as well, the state is actually putting into effect new Medicaid rules that will go into effect on July 1st of next year, and we have to understand as well how those new rates and that new regime plays into these contracts. So I apologize for the long answer, Councilman, but we just felt like if we were going to enter into the longer term sets of contracts that Councilman Schron has mentioned, we wanted to make sure that we were doing that based on the most progressive way to approach these contracts over a longer term.
So, Madam President, to the Director, we're essentially through this new process and hiring the consultant and coming up with a RFP that speaks more to the needs that we see the county having. Do you anticipate that some of these, with these new demands, that some of these current providers will fall off the list? And if so, is there enough capacity out there to meet the demand needs of the children who need these services?
Madam Chair, to the Councilman, I don't know that I can, as we sit here today, not knowing what will be in the new RFP, how accurate I would be to predict whether the increased sophistication of our RFP will scare away some providers. In some respects, we might get more providers interested in us if we're much more specific about what we are seeking to buy and what we're willing to pay for it. You know, there are ranges of services within all these contracts, from basic foster care up to very deep-end residential behavioral health kinds of contracts. I am not concerned as we stand here today, and I think Pat Rideout would agree with this. We're fortunate in Cuyahoga County to have a very rich set of providers, a very robust set of providers for child welfare purposes. So I'm not concerned that supply will be an issue, but we need to be more specific about what we're looking for and the pricing structure that we'd like to see that within. And I think, you know, it will be a new thing for the providers, but I don't think it will necessarily drive any of them other way. I will say that the contracts that you have in front of you now pretty much are the same set of providers. I think from through the RFP, we only had 2 existing providers who chose not to reapply. So if that's any indication, I would imagine the next RFP will have a healthy set of proposers.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Ms. Conwell?
Madam Chair, to the Director, I thought number 13 was taken out or questioned at committee.
And bear with me with
Without Slim Meals.
Madam Chair, I can answer that. This is their last payment,
Okay.
so we're good.
I know you brought it up.
We're good.
Okay.
I would say to the Councilwoman through the chair that the reason that Glen Mills is in there is because juvenile court refers children to Glen Mills. That's why we must have a contract with them, because if the court gives us custody, we are required to share the cost of that child in that institution with the court. We don't refer children on our own to Glen Mills.
All right, anything further? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, resolution is adopted. Item 0305.
Resolution number 2011-0305, a resolution authorizing an award on requisition number 20792 to American Bridge Company in the amount of $30,323,618.65 for rehabilitation of Columbus Road Lift Bridge over the Cuyahoga River in the city of Cleveland, authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract consistent with said award, and authorizing the county engineer on behalf of the county executive to make an application for allocation from county motor vehicle $5 license tax funds in the amount of $6,064,723.73 to fund said contract.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Schrein, seconded by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? Mr. Greenspan?
Thank you, Madam President. This just may be a technical question to the law director. Should this be amount not to exceed, or is this 30 million a fixed contract amount?
Actually, the Director of Public Works may know better. I don't have the actual contract on me to know the answer to.
Madam President Bonnie Tew on Public Works to Councilman. This is a bid item, so it's a specific cost as this point, and as the contractor performs the work, we pay on actual in-place measured quantities. So the price may vary based on the measured quantities, but this is a bid price, specifically unit cost prices.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Madam
Opposed?
Chairperson?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Any opposed?
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Yes.
My name on this. I think not only is it necessary, but it's also, I think, very important part of, keeping part of what's really important. It makes Cleveland intact. Lots of times these things go by the wayside, and I like lift bridges.
Okay. All right, item 0307.
Resolution number 2011-0307, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into an amendment to contract number CE 1100533 with Trimore Corporation for the Year 2 Pavement Maintenance Program, Aprons A1B Reconstruction, and Aprons A2C D1 Rehabilitation for the period August 9, 2011 through June 6, 2012, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $675,500.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Schrein, seconded by Ms. Conwell. Any discussion on this?
The only comment is, I thought on school boards, we always saw roofing projects that always need to seem to be done on our schools when I was there. It seems like the airport is always going to be constantly in a need of doing asphalt and paving, so it'll come up on a regular basis. So don't be surprised when somebody says, didn't we just do that? The answer is yes, and it'll be a continual project, so.
Does that mean there's a lot of planes landing there, though?
There are a lot of planes landing there. As a matter of fact, it's an exciting place. You haven't got a chance to go up there. It's pretty dynamic what's going on up there.
I'd like to add my name.
And Ms. Simon's name? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have, the resolution is adopted. Item 16, consideration of an ordinance for first reading and referral to committee.
Ordinance number 2011-0054, an ordinance approving the revised Cuyahoga County Small Business Enterprise Program Policies and Procedures Manual, effective January 1, 2012, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Now we'll go to Public Works. Item 17, committee report and consideration of an ordinance for second reading adoption and suspension of Rule 9D. Ms. Simon?
And I move we suspend the rules.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Simon, seconded by Mr. Gallagher. Any discussion on suspension of the rules? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Item 0051.
Ordinance number 2011-0051, an ordinance establishing the Department of Communications and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Rogers and seconded by Mr. Miller. Is any discussion on this?
Madam Chair, it's just a procedural ordinance to get the department started, so it has to be in place in order for the HRC and all that to continue to do the rest.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. Item 18, committee report and consideration of an ordinance for second reading referral to committee.
Ordinance number 2011-0050, an ordinance providing for the adoption of various changes to the Cuyahoga County non-bargaining classification plan and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
This now referred to the Human Resources Committee. All right, item 19. Did you want to have a comment before we go to our miscellaneous reports?
Just very briefly, I just wanted, we blew past it quickly, and I just wanted to just make a quick comment on item 0321, and we're going to put out a statement tomorrow on it and talk a little bit more about the process we went through. But this is reforming the portion of the Sheriff's Department operation where they were doing their own appraisals with what had been very well documented as an overly politicized part of county government in terms of the way that function was being done. We ended up having a higher level of professionalism that we've insisted on. All of the individuals that you see here listed are certified appraisers. We would not consider candidates that were not certified appraisers, which actually knocked out most of the current group of appraisers that had originally been brought in under Sheriff McFall. So it's another example, I think, of a portion of county government that I think had been over politicized and under professionalized, and I'm proud that we have established a policy that I think is going to fix it. And so I look forward to discussing it in detail in committee. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We've been here since 2 o'clock in various committees and regular meetings, so is there any miscellaneous committee reports?
Madam President.
Mr. Greenspan.
I am, well, my phone just went dead, so I can't check my calendar. I'd like to have an Ethics Committee, Rules Committee meeting on November 29th at 2 p.m. We have the 2 items referred, and also we should receive back from the State Archives, believe it or not, the information we need on the campaign finance, which has been sitting in committee for about 3 months. So the 29th at 2 p.m., which is a Tuesday.
All right. Anyone else? Mr. Schrein?
Yeah, there's a committee of the whole set for Monday, and in the effort of trying to support the county executive on the $100 million fund, we're going to combine the Economic Development Committee with that council of the whole. There are people that wanted to hear about the funding and how the funding technique's going to work, and Mr. Rubino has offered to present that. So, and also, though I haven't heard back, I'm sure it'll be fine. Mr. Kelly is going to give us the 30,000-foot level. We already had that for the basis of the committee, but for those who were not at the committee, they'll get a short 30,000-foot level, and then because it'll also fit very nicely in with the budgeting, Mr. Rubino will cover how we're going to pay for it, what the all those concepts are. So it'll be right, and because it's a council of the whole, when Mr. Miller finishes with his, if it's 329, we can go right directly into the $100 million fund discussion. Otherwise, we would have had to schedule it, wait for the one meeting to terminate and go forward. So we'll run them on a simultaneous basis. It's the 14th, I'm sorry, of November, right on the back. Currently, Mr. Miller has it set from 1 to, I think, 6 or 1 to 5. And so the thought is if it ends early, then we'll just go right on through it. It should not be longer than I wouldn't take a half an hour or 45 minutes.
Okay, any other miscellaneous committee reports, any other miscellaneous business?
Chair?
Yes. Mr. Jones?
Madam Chair, because of the Sunshine Law training that's taking place tomorrow, we will not have our regularly scheduled Public Works Committee meeting, and we will deal with the items referred today on next Thursday.
Okay.
And we'll also have a Environment and Sustainability Committee meeting on November 18th, 1 o'clock.
All those will be, I'm sorry?
1 o'clock.
On what day?
November 18th, Friday.
So Friday. And Ms. Simon?
Justice Affairs on the 18th at 11:30.
Okay, and all of those will be posted on the website. Just a reminder of our upcoming meetings. We have a meeting on Monday, November the 14th, which is a committee meeting, budget of the whole. I've been here a long time. Committee of the whole on our budget hearings for the budget, continuation of the budget process we've been going through. We have a committee of the whole for budget hearing on Thursday, November 17th, which is an all-day meeting. Or is it all day or just morning? 1 o'clock. All right, we have a committee of the whole on budget hearings on Monday, November the 28th. We also have we have 2 remaining regular meetings for the season. We have regular meetings set for December 6th at 6 o'clock and a regular meeting for December 13th at 6 o'clock.
President? Just one last thing, I'm so sorry. The Top Dog contest is going to conclude, well, the deadline is next week, so whoever's interested in being a judge of the contest, let the clerk know, and we'll let you know how many applications. If we get too many, we're going to have to set up in different committees, like we did for interviewing the Board of Revision candidates.
Madam President.
Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
Mr. Miller?
I'm anticipating that the meeting of Finance and Budget Committee to deal with that year-end transfer legislation will probably be during the week of the 28th, and I'll get back to the council with the time.
Madam President, we can hopefully leave on this note. I'd like to apologize for an unfortunate but necessary beating Saturday night at Cleveland Heights High School in a mighty Big Green Machine of St. Edward. I see my St. Ignatius foes of this Saturday have already left the building. And certainly the winner Saturday night will, I would imagine, bring back the state title once again. So I throw down the gauntlet to the Ignatius Wild Kittens, and I apologize to my friends in Cleveland Heights, not really.
All right, did anyone sign in for public comment unrelated to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair, no one's.
All right, is any other business for the good?
However, there still is a St. Ignatius fan in this room, and I beg to differ with Councilman Gallagher.
President, I move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Take it outside.
Yeah, take it outside. Jesus.